Hello everyone, this is Edray1416 here with another conservative commentary. Today's commentary is on Kelly Jean Drinkwater's Enough with the Fear of Fat, a highly controversial speech that has gotten tremendous backlash. Now why is this video extremely negative? 2 words, fat acceptance. Yes, I know this video was uploaded in November, but it's relevant. This will be my most controversial commentary yet. With that being said, today's avatar is Pat Robertson of the 700 Club. Let's see what Miss Drinkwater has to say on the subject in question. Skipping the introduction.
These judgments are insidious. They can be directed at individuals and groups, and they can also be directed at ourselves. And this way of thinking is known as fat phobia. Like any form of systematic oppression, fat phobia is deeply rooted in complex structures like capitalism, patriarchy, and racism.
First problem with this presentation. You say that fat phobia is deeply rooted into complex structures like capitalism, patriarchy, and racism, yet you do not elaborate the 3 things you mention. Basically, you are implying that people that make money are afraid of fat people. As for patriarchy, you sure are biased against them when in fact men are obese too, but they try not to let their weight get in the way of their responsibilities. How do I know? Because I'm technically considered obese at 5'8" and 225 pounds. And racism? Why didn't you mention that part to your audience? This makes your presentation fall flat from the beginning. How about you actually think before you speak next time?
We may even blame fat people themselves for the discrimination they face because, after all, if we don't like it, we should just lose weight. Easy. This anti-fat bias has become so integral, so ingrained to how we value ourselves and each other, that we rarely question why we have such contempt for people of size and where that disdain comes from.
The disdain for obese people comes from people having to pay health care by law for people that are sick. Obese people often fill the emergency rooms with illnesses, and that's why they go off on obese people to tell them to lose weight. The health care that's being used for obesity is tremendous, since caring for obese people costs taxpayers in America a range from $147 billion to $210 billion a year. That's why people have a disdain for obese people. It's screwing up the economy and costing jobs because of a hard wiring for junk food, grains, and low-fat meals. If you want further proof of obesity being catastrophic health-wise and economically, check out a mirrored video from a Valiant called Fat Acceptance Is... Link will be in the description. Okay, let's continue.
I've spent the last 20 years unpacking and deprogramming these messages, and it's been quite the roller coaster. I've been openly laughed at, abused from passing cars, and been told that I'm delusional. I also receive smiles from strangers who recognise what it takes to walk down the street with a spring in your step and your head held high. Thanks. And through it all, that fierce little 6-year-old has stayed with me, and she has helped me stand before you today as an unapologetic fat person. A person that simply refuses to subscribe to the dominant narrative about how I should move through the world in this body of mine.
If you choose not to conform to getting fit, be my guest. But I must tell you this, Miss Drinkwater, you are making yourself more prone to disease like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and many other afflictions. For the women that are watching thinking that I'm a nut job for bashing obese people, I used to weigh 300 pounds and thought to myself that I was happy the way that I looked. But then I started suffering afflictions in my feet and in my back during that time. Today, I weigh 225 pounds and I'm suffering a lot less pain. So no, a person can never truly get comfortable when they are obese, since pain and illness is common with obesity. I hope you remember this, Miss Drinkwater, because that may force you to take better care of your health.
And I'm not alone. I am part of an international community of people who choose to, rather than passively accepting that our bodies are, and probably always will be big, we actively choose to flourish in these bodies as they are today.
That right there is the reason why obese women are involved in the fat acceptance movement. How can an obese person flourish in their bodies when aging is a major factor in slowing down people from doing activities? This is not right, and you know it. Like I said in the previous point, no person can truly get comfortable when they are obese because of pain and illness. This is why the patriarchy is critical of the fat acceptance movement, because guys like myself want both genders to be fit and responsible for their bodies, not the taxpayers of America that has to fork over hundreds of billions of dollars a year to do so. Also, you are creating a false sense of security for obese women that are struggling to better themselves. Listen, I don't have a problem with fat women personally, but when people like Miss Drinkwater says it's alright for obese people to be happy with their bodies, that is exploitation of insecurities. It makes a woman not want to take care of themselves. That's why people bash the fat acceptance movement, because of false indoctrinations.
People who honour our strength and work with, not against, our perceived limitations. People who value health as something much more holistic than a number on an outdated BMI chart. Instead, we value mental health, self-worth, and how we feel in our bodies as vital aspects to our overall well-being.
While I do think that body mass index can be a joke sometimes, you gotta remember that the types of afflictions obesity causes in the long run if you don't care for yourself. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, hypertension, which can lead to strokes and aneurysms, and a lot of pain. If it's to the point where obese people cannot get up and walk from their living room to their mailbox outside, then that's a huge problem. Losing weight will not only help you avoid those risks of heart disease and cancer, but it can make diabetes easier to manage and your blood pressure stabilizes. Also, obesity can negatively affect mental health. Ms. Drinkwater, you might want to reevaluate your views on fat acceptance.
But to be clear, I'm not saying that people shouldn't change their bodies if that's what they want to do. Reclaiming yourself can be one of the most gorgeous acts of self-love and can look like a million different things. From hairstyles to tattoos to body contouring to hormones to surgery and yes, even weight loss. It's simple. It's your body and you decide what's best to do with it.
You're right. People have the right to do what they want with their bodies, whether people like it or not. Unfortunately, if it gets to the point where friends of the obese individual become concerned, then they have to intervene with the friend. Obesity isn't something to joke about or smile upon, Miss Drinkwater. Getting to the root of the problem is the only way obese people can control themselves in the end. And this is another example of why the fat acceptance movement is a big deal. For anyone watching, be careful with your friends that are obese and don't let them destroy themselves. Step in and intervene to motivate them to take better care of themselves. Let's continue.
I've lost count of how many times people of all sizes have told me that the show has changed their lives, how it helped them shift their relationship to their own and other people's bodies, and how it made them confront their own bias. But of course, work that pushes people's buttons is not without its detractors. I have been told that I'm glorifying obesity. I have received violent death threats and abuse for daring to make work that centres fat people's bodies and lives and treats us as worthwhile human beings with valuable stories to tell.
The reason why that play is deemed controversial is because it consists of people that are so big that the audience fears that one of them would collapse and die from a heart attack or some other affliction. They believe it was unacceptable because it does not teach any life lessons on why people need to make better food choices in their lives. Be that as it may, people have a right to their opinions, and if they do not like the play, they will voice their concerns, like in this case. You gotta remember that whether a play is good or bad, some people are going to be negative depending on the nature of the play.
I've even been called the ISIS of the obesity epidemic. A comment so absurd that it is funny. But it also speaks to the panic, the literal terror that the fear of fat can evoke. It is this fear that's feeding the diet industry, which is keeping so many of us from making peace with our own bodies, for waiting to be the after photo before we truly start to live our lives. Because the real elephant in the room here is fat phobia.
No, the real elephants in the room are the people that try to justify this movement to exploit an obese person's insecurities. Fat acceptance is an exploitation movement, not an acceptance movement. I emphasize the word exploitation if women are watching and they say to themselves, I shouldn't lose weight to be accepted by society, I should be happy for who I am. And that is the mentality that is going to overwhelm the medical system in the next few years if men and women do not change their diets and take care of themselves. Miss Drinkwater, Please start taking better care of yourself, otherwise you will live a life with a lot of afflictions as time goes by. If I got from 300 pounds down to 225 pounds, and perhaps lower in the weeks to come, so can you and a lot of other obese people. Do some research and listen to presentations from naturopathic physicians on how sustainable weight loss works.
Fat activism refuses to indulge this fear. By advocating for self-determination and respect for all of us, we can shift society's reluctance to embrace diversity and start to celebrate the myriad of ways there are to have a body. Thank you.
And that's the end of the presentation. Overall, this presentation was abysmal. While I did cut out a lot of things from the original video, I did it to point out specifically why fat acceptance is a failure of a movement. We should not have to fork over tax dollars to take care of obese people when they should take responsibility by cutting out junk food, carbonated beverages, fried food, and gluten. For the obese people watching and want to lose weight, here's what you do. Eat poached or soft-boiled eggs. Eat red meat cooked rare or medium rare because of CoQ10. Eat berries for the antioxidants. Eat nuts, except for peanuts. Eat dairy, and supplement with colloidal minerals. In the next couple of months, not only will you lose weight, but you'll actually have sustainable energy, which can make you happy. Anyway, I'm Edray, and I'm out of here.